Quilts for You. Behind me is a partially finished quilt that I've been working on. This is part 2. I'm making a big song and dance about making this extremely simple quilt from a pack of 10-inch squares. You saw part 1 of me cutting and constructing the block. I'm showing you how I've put this quilt together behind me. There is a method that you can just put the blocks exactly the same, 6 blocks across, 7 rows down, configured exactly the same with the sashing on the top. It's a self-sashed block, so you have a very symmetrical look, all the sashing going this way, all the sashing going that way. However, I decided to change it up. Every other row I've decided to change a bit. I had gotten a suggestion from Marla. Thank you very much, Marla, for changing them around, and that's what I've done. So every 2 rows is the same. Every 2 rows are the same, and I've come up with this. My next video, I'm stopping it again here. My next video, I will be showing you how I'm putting on the sashing and then the border, and then how I'm going to quilt this. I will quilt it here on my sewing machine, and I'll show you that. I just wanted to tell you we've had a slight upset. Our son Maxwell, who you know is 22, who's autistic, he lost his phone. Now his phone broke about a week ago, and long story short, we were due for an upgrade with Sprint/T-Mobile, our providers. They have messed Maxwell about. He had taken it upon himself, with our permission and our supervision and our guidance, to go online and buy a new iPhone. Well, it wasn't necessarily his fault. The Sprint company messed it up. They sent him the wrong one. He has to wait another 3 to 5 days to get a whole packet back. We went to the T-Mobile store about 4 times to purchase the phones. It was such a rigmarole. And he does use his phone a lot. We use our phones a lot. It's a necessary evil, it seems. And he was not coping well whatsoever. He was really getting upset. And you know Maxwell, you guys who know Maxwell, he's even-tempered, and he's sweet, and he's lovely, and he's so very, very easy. He was fairly obstinate, muttering under his breath. He was not coping well whatsoever. And we totally understand and validate his feelings, because it was an upset, but it got to the point where unusually, it was very unusual for him to be acting out in such a way. So we really had to sit him down, again, dignify him, but basically pull him up. There are a lot worse things happening in the world. First world problems, right? His phone. He doesn't have a phone for 5 days. Not that we diminish his feelings whatsoever, but we were trying to teach him some better coping methods, because he was not doing very well at all. And again, he was obsessing beyond obsessing. It was exhausting, both Ian and I. So out of the blue, two of our sons, who have a house up in the mountains that they're working on, they're building, about 2 hours away, they called out of the blue and said, would Maxwell like to come up and help them? He's all muscle, right? We need some help. And drywalling and sanding and electrics. So the last 2 days, Maxwell's been up there. And I said, you can have him. Let him obsess with you. But he was fine with his brothers. Three or four of them went up. He was fine. They went out to lunch and everything, and dinner, and they were enjoying each other's company. The boys have the families of their own, but they invited Maxwell up. So he was better off this morning. But again, it's all about teaching him how to cope. He does usually really well. I don't know if it's a combination of, as you know, he had a EEG the other day. He is due for an MRI in 2 weeks. He had blood work on Monday, and I'm telling you, he's used to having blood work. That did not go very well. The woman was fine. It was lovely. It was straightforward, but he had been fasting, of course. He was sort of doolally, and out of it, and I quickly got him quite a lot of food and drink. He seemed a bit better, but he had to lay down. Again, I don't know if it's a combination of our situation here, our home situation, although we are fine. We are accepting this. We are being patient and just, relying on the circumstances as they, make themselves manifest where we need to be as far as our home situation. This is temporary accommodation. I don't know if that's getting to him. The trauma of the disaster, the phone, I don't know what it was. His medical problems, although his seizures have been controlled with medicine. I don't know what it was, but I really felt bad for Maxwell. But we're like, Maxwell, you got to get over yourself. You got to learn to cope, because there's wicked things happening in the world. And if you can't cope with a lost phone, who knows what's going to happen on our doorsteps. And we have to be ready. And we have to be, relying on our God to take care of us. And, keeping calm will be our strength. And, whatever will happen. He's been through a lot, as we all have, as our family has. But it's our outlook. So I think he got some home truths sounded down because his brothers helped also. So that was that. Prayers for our Maxwell. He's such a dear boy. Hopefully he'll come back a little bit more renewed, and he's going to be getting his phone, a new phone, in several days. So he'll be happy about that. Again, it's understandable in these days of technology. Poor boy needs it. But anyway, the next little bit of video is just me showing you how I put the blocks together. I ironed them, I trimmed them, and I put them together. And to come, I'm going to be putting on the sashing and the border. That's all. And again, it is mindless sewing, because I can't wrap my head around something, serious now for the last couple years since our situation, as you know. But I think a lot of you, let's just sit down and sew some squares together and just go into our sewing room for a little bit of a reprieve from what's happening out in that wicked world that we live in. So anyway, I send out my prayers to all of you, and to keep ourselves sane and to keep calm, and prayers for the dear people overseas who are enduring, terrible times. Terrible, terrible times. Our prayers go out to them. I will be putting together some Truelove Challenge projects that I've gotten from a way back. They're coming in now. So please be patient with me, because it takes a lot for me to download them and make it that video up. But that's a video to come. But for now, just the next video will probably be me finishing my quilt. So bear with me with whatever I'm doing, but I am sitting at my sewing machine, and I appreciate all your prayers and best wishes for our family, and the same to you guys, my friends out in YouTube land. So, as usual, folks, love from the Trueloves. Bye-bye. I've started pressing my 42 blocks here. Again, as you can see, I have a 1/2 inch that needs to be trimmed, and this is how it's come off of my sewing machine. And as you know, I always just set my seams. I'm going to roll that back there and set that shorter one, and then roll the longer one over and set that seam like that. And that way, the seams are going up like that, and I can just press my block, my seams like that. Again, that reads to me the green. I'm going to go put that on that pile. So I'll just continue. I'm going to set that seam there, roll that over, set that seam, and then the seams just go rolling right up beautifully. I'm going to go back over to my ironing board. This goes in my red pile. I'm going to go to my ironing board, my cutting board, and I'm going to trim off, line my ruler up, and trim off that 1/2 inch of piece there. And then I will be ready to put my quilt blocks together. The body. So I've taken everything off of my ironing board, and I brought it over to my cutting table here. And as you can see, I have this little 1/2 inch bit right there that I'm going to trim off. See how that block right there on my Martelli cutting mat is exactly 9.5 inches. You see that? That is a 10 inch square there. And my block is measuring 9.5 inches. So I'm just going to continue. I've taken my blocks, my 42 squares, which have been ironed and trimmed from my cutting table over there, and I've made 4 piles. As you can see, I have 10, 11, 11, and 10 in each pile. Now, from the manufacturers, the fabric manufacturers made this line in particular. Everyone's different. Everyone's scrappy the way I've made it. So I know that they will all go together. But when I'm putting a quilt together from a fabric manufacturer, from maybe a pre-cut kit or pre-cut package, I quite like to sort of stand back and separate them into a color scheme. And in this respect, I got 4 colors. Now, I'm deeming this pile of 10 red. This big block is, to my mind, red. These are greens. These are, for lack of a better word, I'm calling these whites. And these are blues, okay? So I have a pretty good mixture of patterns that visually your eye will travel all around, as opposed to having, say, 4 reds over here. Even though it's scrappy, your eye may see, oh, all of the reds are over here, because I didn't mix them up. That's just a little thing. So now there's many ways to put together this block, and it's absolutely personal, up to you. I don't have my design wall that I could put up in front, so I have this table here and this configuration and whatever. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start maybe the traditional way that you would do it, okay? I'm taking a red and then a green, and I'm putting them the exact way, okay, with my long bit of sashing. This is a self-sashed block on the top, okay? My red, my green, my white, and my blue, okay? And then I'll go back, I'm doing it exactly the same. Then I'll go back to my red, making sure, the only thing you want to make sure when you do it this way is that you don't have exactly the same color next to each other. So I look back, I think, oh, that's okay, that's a nice arrangement right there. Then I would continue. So I go to my green, I would go to my, what I would deem white, and do the exact same thing. I would pull this. What I'm saying is, let me just see if I turn them back the way they were. Notice the difference when it's so very, very scrappy. Maybe I'll turn it this way. Oh, I like that. That's the way I'll do it. I'll turn it the other way. So it's really scrappy, and I'll turn this one that way. Now that I like, because now the sashing is all joggled. It's going from here to here. So I like that way, okay? Do you see what I'm saying? So this top row, every other one is turned with a long bit that way. This second row is I've turned every other one the opposite way. And again, so it's a bit joggled there. Now, every other block, okay? So for the first 2 rows, I have that configuration. Again, this is how I'm doing it. You can put the blocks together, but then I'm going to actually repeat the next rows exactly like the first 2. So I got my placement down. Let me show you here. As you can see, this is not sewn here. The top row is sewn with the seam allowance. So these are just laying there. As you can see, my vertical sashing is going to be joggled. You see that, and then my horizontal sashing that is going to be joggled across the horizontally across the quilt. As you can see, it's a very scrappy quilt. It doesn't really matter, but I got it down. A lot of times with layer cakes, you'll have a large pattern, okay, and then you'll have smaller patterns to sort of fill it, okay. Now I'm not quite pleased because I have much less of the large patterns as opposed to the small patterns. I'm not pleased that there's that blue next to that large red. So I will substitute, I will find another blue and maybe down here, and I will switch it out because I'm going to quite like, now let me see, that goes this way, like that. And then I'll put that larger one down here. And again, I'm just gonna, so you see my eye, I have floral, 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 floral. I'm working on my 4th row, and I've laid it out on my table over there, and I've just picked up the squares exactly like I want to be sewing them. So this is my top square. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that over there like that, and I'm going to pick that up, and then my 2nd square I know is going to go pretty sides down. So on the right hand side, I'm going to now stitch this seam. Very important, again, that you use your 1/4 inch seam. You can see I don't have to pin these because they've been cut and sewn really precise. And then there's my first 2. So then I pick up my next block over here, and I turn it around and onto the right, pretty sides together. I sew. Now I do it this way. There's only 6 seams, or there would be 5 seams because there's 6 blocks. So I'm not bothered that I will get perhaps out of order. I'm pretty sure that I will stay in a nice order. So again, here's my block here. I'll pick this one up, and I know that it goes that way because I've laid it out carefully. And again, if you get, I'm making a big song and dance about keeping your scrappy look scrappy, but if you get confused a little bit, that's okay. That's the whole beauty of the scrappiness. I'm not having to pin anything. And there is my row. Now I'm going to set my seams. I'm going to set my seams and then iron these. And then each row that I have over there is, this row is going to go this way, these seams, all of them. And the next row is going to go that way, just so I can nest these seams. So I'm just going to have to nest one bit right there where the squares are. I have finished all of my rows, and I'm starting from the bottom. I'm sewing my rows together. I have 7 rows of my quilt, and as you can see, if you're looking at it, if you're really looking at it, to find the actual block, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks across, 7 blocks down, there's only 1 seam that you're going to be matching, nesting, and it's this seam right where the actual square meets the other. So I'm sewing the rows together of my quilt, and all I've done is on the intersections, as I was just saying, that 1 seam that I'm going to be having to nest, I've pressed the bottom seams going one way, this row but going the other way, and I have just put 1 pin on that intersection there. Just 1 pin. I'm just having to match the 1 seam because I put my blocks going this way. I'll take my pin out. Again, 1/4 inch seam, very important. And there's my pin. And I know that those points or those intersections will be matched up nicely. My sewing machine's making a noise. I don't know. I like my other Juki better. I can't wait to get my other Juki back from being repaired. This is a nice machine, but I do like my Juki QVP Mini. Again, as you can see, I've just put one pin. I don't have to pin the entire seam, because as I keep saying, they've been sewn nicely and they've been cut nicely. It's my last one. It's nested lovely. I'm coming to the end.
And there, it's so scrappy you can't really tell, but there's the where it's been. That's the only point right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. That's it. Oh, it's so pretty. Love it. Very pretty.